hearts like root. When mission walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned, on the mission walk, wisdom is yearned. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light, Raki Avot's wisdom shining bright. Through Torah, treasure to share, on the mission walk, we're all aware. A mission walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned, on the mission walk, wisdom is yearned. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages we find our way, on the mission walk, every single day. Mission walk, every single day. The mission walk, every single day. Mission walk, a journey of the soul. We'll mission walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned, on the mission walk, wisdom is yearned. The mission walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. Every step bring us closer to the truth, on the mission walk, with hearts like root.
Shavua Tov.
Shavua Mevorach. I didn't realize.
Okay, Tov.
Boker Or, how are you guys doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Doing well.
Baruch Hashem. All right, I was going to open up my PDF, but I still have more preparing my new computer. But I did get a new computer, thank God.
That's great.
Baruch Hashem.
Looks good too. Looks good.
Though you can't see it.
No, I mean the video looks good.
You're kidding, really?
Yeah, versus the potato that it used to look through. The potato cam.
What are you talking about? This
That's
is not the better camera, actually. This is just the monitor camera.
Well, it works good. Yeah, it looks
Okay.
good.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
all the backgrounds. Well,
The
Mr.
background's all blurry. Yes, sir.
So we will need someone else to read the beginning prayer. I
All
can
right.
read it by memory if you like, but it's going to be hard for me to stop in the middle of the flow and translate. You know what I'm saying?
Well, don't stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're so funny. Mr. Uriah, would you like to read or say the prayer that we do if you have the text in front of you, or you can translate as I go? You know what? Hodaya, do you have the PDF for it? No.
I don't know if I
Always.
have it on this.
All right, so I'll do it.
computer.
I'll just do it.
Let's do it. There you go.
All right. يهي رسول من لفنخ أذنا إلهي شلو أكشل بدور هالخا شلو أمر على الطمي الطهور ولا على الطهور الطمي ولا على مطور أصور ولا على أصور مطور ولا كشل بدور هالخا ويسمح به عبراي ولا يكش ولا يكشل بد ولا يكشلوا بدي بدي هالخا واسمح مهم. I'll just end it because you think too much and it just goes to Gaza.
Oh,
All right.
off to Aza.
Yes. So, Hodaya, would you like to summarize the prayer in your own words? So we ask that it be God's will and our own will aligned with His, that we not say regarding what is impure that it is pure, nor that we say regarding what is pure that it's not, nor should we say regarding what is permitted that it's not permitted, nor should we say regarding what is not permitted that it is. And in doing so, we shall not stumble in a matter of halakha, in a point of the proper implementation of God's commandments. And in walking in this way, I shall rejoice with my fellows, and my fellows shall rejoice with me, and we shall keep each other from stumbling blocks. Can you hear us on me? It be his will and Omar, and everybody said,
Amen.
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 Well, if you need a few minutes to play with your PDF and get things
It's not
ready.
opening. It's not opening.
Oh, well, in
I
that
don't.
case.
I didn't expect it to be like that. I mean, it's a brand new computer, but
Yeah, you gotta set things up and get it playing nice.
I don't know. I have a PDF opener. I'll get my brother to help me with this.
Yeah, you gotta set everything back up. That's fine. All right.
Oriel, would you like to take control?
Take control. So what are we
Yeah.
doing?
Oh,
Screen share. We're on
let
Safari.
let me get him set up to be able to. All right, you are co-host. Actually, so everyone's a co-host, and let me start.
You don't have to appear. Just screen share.
Yeah, no problem.
We're on proactive commandment 79.
You sure you don't want to do this?
I can
You
do
have
that, but
Yeah,
Do you have the link
Yeah.
for that, Hodiah?
you can do that, and I could wake up a little bit.
look up. Oh, no problem. Okay.
Yeah,
Can you guys see my screen?
It is coming up. There it is.
there we go.
Yofi. Okay.
It's a little small if you want to hold
Yeah,
your
no,
control and zoom it.
I just
I don't
did,
know.
but it doesn't seem. It says it amplified at 150%, but it's not doing anything. So that's beautiful. Okay.
Here it comes. Okay. Yeah. It's not going widescreen, but that's still fine, I think.
I don't know why.
I can read it anyway. I don't know if everyone else can.
I think it looks great.
Okay.
I miss my old computer. This is a brand new one, but
This is good. This
you
is
get
good.
used to. Let's see. 79. Okie dokie. هذا بخفض.
To sanctify the firstborn of a kosher animal and offer it as a sacrifice, as Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 19 states, every firstling that shall be born, which shall be born.
All right. And what do we say for next commandment, or whose turn now? Me haba next.
Miswa haba.
Okay. Next commandment.
Anib haba.
بخفض.
80, to redeem firstborn sons, as Numbers 18:15 states. However, you must surely redeem firstborn humans. Mitzvah haba.
Uriah, tur shulcha, your turn.
To redeem a firstling donkey, as Exodus 34:20 states, redeem a firstling donkey with a sheep.
All right. Miswah haba. To decapitate a firstling donkey which is not redeemed, as Exodus 34:20 states, if you do not redeem it, you must decapitate it. I know that sounds harsh.
That's pretty harsh.
Next commandment.
For a person who shall bring all the sacrifices for which he is liable, be they obligatory or voluntary offerings, on the first pilgrimage festival that occurs, as Deuteronomy chapter 12, verses 5 and 6 states, and you shall come there and you shall bring there.
How can a person be liable for a voluntary offering?
You're not to appear empty-handed.
Well, I guess you just got to sin then. I'm just picking. So once you commit verbally to make a voluntary offering, then it's no
You have
longer.
to follow through.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't sell it. Someone says, "Hey, I'll give you, $1,000 for that little lamb." Sorry, it's
All
not
right.
mine anymore.
Mihaba Bator. Who's next in line?
Anihaba.
B'chavod.
To sacrifice all the offerings in God's chosen house, the temple, as Deuteronomy 12:14 states, there you will perform all that I command you. Mitzvah haba. Haba.
Oh man, what number was that? It seems
That was
it's right here. Okay.
Yeah.
to tend to all the offerings from the diaspora, that is the Jewish people who live outside of the land of Israel, to tend to all of the offerings and bring them to Eretz Israel. I wonder how they, well, that's pretty much to tend, litapel, to take care of. Okay. So to take care of all of the needs regarding the offerings of the exile communities of the people of Israel and bring them to the land of Israel, Eretz Israel, to the chosen house, that is the temple, the national temple, now permanently positioned in Jerusalem, as Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 26 states, take the sacred offerings which you possess and your pledges and come to the place that God will choose. Based on the oral tradition, we have learned that this applies to sacred offerings from the diaspora, that is the exile communities.
Okay, point of order here. Sacred offerings. If I'm raising sheep outside of the country, and are my sheep also obligatory to go to the temple, or are we talking about ones that I've declared for a certain thing, like I declare this sheep to be given as an offering?
Here, the first word, it just says korbanot, which are offerings, mostly sacrificial offerings most of the time. Depending on your income level or your financial means, it may not be an actual animal sacrifice, but that's what it usually is.
Mhm.
It's not specific. It's any such one that you would be required in.
Required. Yeah, go ahead.
Isn't there something about exchanging
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
offering
too
for
far,
money
yeah.
if it's too far?
Of course.
So I would
Yeah.
think that
Yeah, but then you, of
from the
course.
United States to Israel
Yeah, of
for
Well, yeah,
sheep,
of
you
course.
probably exchange it for money.
But I think also, even in the land, especially if you were walking back then, that would be a long trip to try to
Yeah,
get
of
your
course.
lamb over there. So you would do it there as well.
Yeah.
That's why I'm
Outside-
wondering, outside the land, are your animals required to go to the altar, or does Hashem say the animals in my country are the ones that are to be brought?
I'm not sure what you're asking. If you want to try one more time to simplify it, because
You're
I could
right. Are you
interpret- I
following
could
by
interpret-
chance?
Because I could interpret what you just said like two
So
different ways.
he wants to know whether it's a land-based mitzvah or if you're outside the land, if it still counts.
Same thing with what
For-
you're saying. When you say land-based mitzvah, land-based commandment, are you talking about that it's only a mitzvah to bring animal offerings that are animals which are born in the land of Israel, or also animals born outside the land of Israel? What are you asking? Are you talking about?
That's what we're asking. Or is this also for animals outside, like Egypt? If you have sheep that you born and raised in Egypt, are they required to go to the temple?
If the journey is too far, you can exchange it for money, and then when you get to the land of Israel, you purchase what you need, just like what Hodaya said.
So it's yes, the animals
No,
anywhere in the world
Yes,
are
yes,
required.
yes, but you can view that in more than one way. I don't think we should delve
All right.
too deeply into
All
this
right.
because it is no one's expertise here, as far as I know, maybe Uriel. However, what you're asking, I'm certain of. I just think that we're kind of going in circles, so we should stay
Okay.
focused.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right. I believe that was 86. All right. Uriel, Tor Shulcha.
to redeem sacred offerings that have become blemished, and thus have them to be permitted for mundane use, as Deuteronomy 12:15 states, but whenever you desire, you may slaughter. Based on the oral tradition, we have learned that this refers only to sacred offerings which have become disqualified and have been redeemed.
Okay. Uriel, Tor Shalach.
Then an animal substituted for a sacred offering be regarded as sacred, as Leviticus chapter 27, verse 33 states, both the original animal and the one substituted for it shall be consecrated.
All right. Mr. Etan, Bachavod.
Skip me this time. I'm setting something up.
To eat the remains of the meal offerings, as Leviticus chapter 6, verse 9 states, Aharon, that is the brother of Moses, and his descendants will eat the remainder of it, patrilineal descendants. Uriah, בכבוד.
Eat the flesh of the sin and guilt offerings, as Exodus 29:33 states, and they shall eat the sacrifices, with which atonement was made for them.
Miswah Tishirim. Proactive commandment 90. To burn sacred meat which became impure, as Leviticus chapter 7 verse 19 states, and the flesh which touches anything impure shall be burnt.
To burn the
Ani
leftovers.
haba? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Victor.
To burn the leftovers from the sacrifices, as Leviticus 7:17 states, the leftovers from the flesh of the sacrifice shall be burnt with fire on the third day.
All right. Miswah ha'aharona, the final miswah. Hodiah, would you like to read it?
For a Nazirite to grow his hair long, as Numbers chapter 6, verse 5 states, he shall let the hair of his head grow without cutting it.
All right, and that concludes this week's reading of 13 from the 613. Anybody have any questions regarding anything we read other than meticulous details regarding the sacrificial system? There is actually a halakha. I'm not, just that you know, it's an actual halakha that is codified in the standard, universally respected codes of Jewish law, both Mishneh Torah and Shulchan Aruch, that one is not supposed to ask detailed questions about topics that their teacher has not been prepared for in advance. And the beautiful thing about that halakha is that, contrary to the pervasive worldview of many in the, I would say, so-called ultra-Orthodox Jewish world, the Haredi world, contrary to the pervasive worldview that scholars, even the greatest of scholars, are unquestionable or are infallible, or that they are truly like able to memorize every single detail without question. Because you hear things like this if you spend substantial time in the religious Jewish world, in the Haredi Jewish world at least. You will hear things such as, this rabbi knows every single sugya in the Talmud. And of course, it's one thing if a person is aware that they're exaggerating and they're not really intending to make people think this kind of a thing. But there are many people who truly believe this. But this halakha shows that you can be a legitimate teacher and not know everything and need to review.
Absolutely.
So it is a halakha that one should not try to enter into or delve into discussion on a particular matter if that matter has not been recently reviewed. You can talk about it on a very surface level, but and really this is a matter of humility that applies to people in all contexts. Who are we to talk about something in some matter with authority if we have not freshly reviewed it, if it is not our expertise? I think one of the most distinguishing characteristics between the Jewish people when it comes to at least the implementation of Jewish law, as opposed to other religions, especially when it comes to details of the Torah, is that the Jewish people, for the most part, at least relative to other communities, do not claim to talk about things that they don't know about. We don't have a problem of saying that's beyond my peer view, as opposed to the amcha of the world, the everyday folk in the religious world specifically. I'm not talking about regular folks around the world generally, but I'm talking about regular folks in religious communities that there tends to be a tendency, especially in religious Christian communities, that you speak with confidence even on topics that you have no clue about. And the reason is because your authority derives from God. So therefore, even if you don't really know, you just speak about whatever impression you've gotten and the hunch you get, which you call, that is, you call your hunch the Holy Spirit, i.e. God. So that's a, oh my goodness, just a second. I don't know if you guys can see that.
No, we just hear it.
Okay. All right. So were there any questions, broad questions on any topic? If I am confident in the details, I will say them.
Yeah. Even that topic that you just brought up, Uriah and I were discussing that, that it's to be expected to not be confident, in the sense of let me triple check, let me grab two sources above me and discuss it with them and make sure that I'm correct, unless you are that fresh on it, Uriah.
Yeah, we were discussing actually last night.
Yeah.
That I will not answer a question halakhically, no matter what I've studied in yeshiva, without bringing sources to the table and discussing it out, even if I am fresh on it.
That's the proper thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that I was doing two things at once. So you're saying even if you are fresh on a matter, you're not going to discuss it? Is that what you just said?
I won't discuss it without the sources there, just in case there's an error of citing something from a text that is far beyond my scope of depth.
Unfortunately, we haven't historically had that privilege, and there are cases still today where you can't really give practical help to someone unless you're willing to rely on your memory. But certainly if you have that ability, that's what you should do. You should have the sources right in front of you or show them. And but we don't want to commit historical anachronism, and there is not a problem with, if you see, not only is there not a problem, there is a duty, there's a divine mandate to speak up when you see someone violating the words of Torah, to let them know. That's on the condition that you know you're likely to be heeded or taken seriously. If you know that they're not likely to take you seriously, you don't speak. However, that's with regard to Torah commandments. When it comes to rabbinic commandments, it's not the same degree of urgency. I wanted to look something up real fast.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's why I carry around an iPad with Art Scroll and Sefaria and everything, where if I need to, I have the sources right there.
We have a lot of advantages in our generation that people didn't used to have.
For sure.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
Oh, so I wanted to pull up, I'm not prepared today other than just in my mind, but I wanted to pull up one of the most well-known and widely loved mitzvot, or not exactly mitzvah, but it contains mitzvot, statements in the Hebrew Bible. If you guys could think of the three most universally beloved passages in the Jewish Bible, the so-called Old Testament, that are universally loved beyond the Jewish people, what would those three verses be?
Beyond the Jewish people.
We can take turns. Each of you give three outside of the Torah.
Oh,
I'm curious.
Non-Torah quotes or sayings, you're saying?
Yes.
Oh.
From the Hebrew Bible. Not yours personally, no. The most beloved, your impression of the most beloved verses, the most popular verses.
Well, you said not in Torah. You mean in the Tanakh?
In Nach. That means from the Old Testament. What do you think are the most popular verses from the Old Testament, excluding the first 5 books? It could be from any of the other books.
I will pass and see what happens here.
So are we going off a perspective of what somebody would bring up in popularity in general?
Don't overanalyze it. I'm not asking about in specific context. I just mean generally loved, cherished, often quoted. There's not a right or wrong answer. I am thinking of a specific one, and I think that you guys would say it, but if I don't, there's no reason to not be confident. You just say whatever you think. It's not about confidence or right or wrong. It's just
There's so many options.
give me three.
Well, I don't know if this is popular everywhere or just amongst
From your
interfaith.
own, I'm talking about
From
in your, I'm talking about
Isaiah 53 is pretty popular
Yes.
amongst interfaith discussions.
just to be clear, I am speaking about in each person's subjective experience. There's no way we can know objectively. I'm talking about anecdotally in your experience. And I'm talking about beloved. For sure, Isaiah 53 is one of the most popular ones. However, I suspect that Isaiah 53 isn't particularly cherished other than when they think about it theologically and as a tool to deceive Jews.
Yeah.
Then it's used for that. I'm talking about cherished, loved.
Psalm 23.
Oh yes, for sure that's one. Absolutely. What others? Absolutely Psalm 23 among Jews and Christians. No question.
119.
What was that? We missed you.
119.
Psalm 119?
Correct.
Yeah, he memorized it by heart, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Udi, are you serious?
Mhm.
Wait, okay, let's narrow it down to a certain verse, not just chapter.
Love the whole thing. Let's do
Oh
it.
my gosh, you crazy. Oh, I honestly, I would think that anybody that really loves God and really values the Bible does really love Psalm 119. I love Psalm 119, but that's a bit of a mouthful. Like, wow,
Yeah.
Mouthful.
that's too much for me to choose from. That's like the book, the chapter itself is a book.
Well, we're here to have fun.
Absolutely. So that is that for our listeners, that is the longest chapter in the Bible as far as verses are concerned.
Yes.
All right, any others? Come on, you guys. Just quote them. You don't have to give the specific number. Give a
So,
quote.
Soaring on wings of eagles, those that
Oh, yeah. Yes, from the book of Isaiah. Don't ask me which verse. Okay, I'm going to give you a few. The just shall live by faith. I lift my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come from? My help comes from Hashem, maker of heaven and earth. Just give some quotes. When I show this, you guys are going to be like, obviously.
For I know the plans I have for you.
Oh, yes. That's a beautiful one. Beautiful one. Absolutely. How about for instruction? A beloved one for instruction. I'm going to show this, and you all are going to be like, that is one of my favorite verses.
We'll see.
Okay, I'm gonna share it now. Come on, you're gonna be like, why did I not think
Didn't
of
I say that? Didn't I say that?
Oh, of course.
That's all right.
You want to read it, Hodaya?
You have been told, O mortal, what is good, and what does God require of you? Only to do justice, to love goodness, and to walk modestly with your God.
Okay. Now
I read this one at least once a week.
Oh, Hodaya, where was it? 1 minute ago.
Well, I was thinking of my broader experiences rather than my experience more with the Jews.
My experience is I mean, maybe we just have different experiences. My experience is that people love this verse. This is one of the most beloved verses in the Bible.
Outside of Judaism, you think?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I've had discussions about the only to do.
Oh my gosh.
Problematic in
this is an example.
Some religious contexts.
This is an example of building a mountain out of not even an anthill, because the only doesn't even exist in the Hebrew. It's just that the word key is one of the most flexible common words in the Bible. And for it sounding natural in English, you could say only. but it doesn't even mean only. Like, this is a beautiful example of the importance of learning Hebrew and how you do not even need to reach a level of fluency in Hebrew in order for learning Hebrew to make significant difference in your understanding of the Bible. Just knowing this one word, because it's such a common word, can significantly open your eyes to what the Bible means and what it doesn't mean in numerous passages. So I would suggest to people who want to learn Hebrew, but feel intimidated or are just sure that they will never be fluent, that's fine. Nobody has to know everything. It's the work is not upon you to complete, but it's not also, you're not free from it to abstain from pursuing it. So what can you do? You don't have to know every word of the Hebrew language in order for it to be meaningful and have significant impact on your walk with God and your understanding of his word. What you should do is take the first top 10 words of word frequency. There are tons of word frequency lists on the internet. Look at the top 10 most frequent words in the Hebrew Bible and just learn those. Just learn those. And after you've learned those, you can learn another 10. But
So like following the parsha would be a good place to do that.
Yeah, and I've already
Yeah.
provided resources, which hopefully one day we'll get on the Mishnah Walk website, where we look at the top 10 words of each week's Torah portion, excluding the top 10 that have appeared in previous portions of the same book. So it's not repeating. Each Torah portion of each book has its own unique top 10, even if they're not the top 10 technically in that Torah portion, because we exclude ones to prevent, we exclude the ones mentioned in the previous weeks to prevent.
Top 10 introduced.
Yes, that's it. Thank you, Habibi.
Yeah.
That's it. And so each week you can be learning just 10, bite size. But a word like key, huge change in your ability to avoid building mountains out of nonsense, not even an anthill. So let's look at this passage. Let's see. Okay. You can read this in more than one way from which it is translated, but all of those ways will more or less convey the same idea. So to love goodness sort of conveys the idea, but it could be misconstrued. So it's often translated like to love mercy or to love loving kindness. I think love mercy is the most common. And you can misconstrue that as love the concept of mercy. But the intention is that you love doing mercy, expressing mercy.
Action.
Right. And to do justice is an entire concept. And of course, it's talking about justice as defined by God in the Torah, not to be misconstrued by the insincere revisionists who culturally appropriate Judaism for their modern political parties and redefine justice as the antithesis of what the Torah teaches. Beware of that, especially in the United States and the English-speaking Jewish world. Unfortunately, a large percentage of so-called Jewish leaders conflate modern political platforms with Judaism, and when the two don't align, will consistently redefine Judaism in favor of the modern political values. Run from people like that, no matter how quote-unquote Jewish they look or sound. So justice is the biblical definition of justice. Goodness is talking about the expressing of goodness and that we should love the doing of it. And the walk humbly with your God, almost always translated walk humbly with your God, it literally says to walk modestly with your God. Modestly. humility is a form of modesty. So modesty takes different forms. You can have modesty of speech, you can have modesty of mindset, you can have modesty of dress. What are some other forms of modesty?
The mouth. So you said that, I think, though.
Yeah, speech.
Behavior.
Well, certainly also the mouth, even if it's not speech. If you see a pretty woman, you don't want to be like, you know.
Yeah.
Oh no,
What did you say, Odia?
that was funny.
Good. So modesty of expression, whether or not it's speech. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so funny. I just got an image of some dude like, because there are certain conditions where you drool. You think you're being really sexy and like suave. What is the word? Is that the word? But really,
Yes, love.
he's viewing you like you got some kind of a condition. We'll do the Donald Trump expression that he got in trouble for. I'm not going to do it here, but I want
Oh no.
to. Oh, so what are some other forms of modesty?
Modest
Tone.
behavior.
Examples. Okay.
Wearing a full head covering when you're in the Dead Sea.
Oh, okay. That would be a matter of personal modesty that exceeds the letter of the law. Right? We do have something akin to that in Jewish tradition, which is I've never actually heard people talk about it. I've read it many, many times. It's in the Gemara, it's in the Talmud. Uriah, do you have any idea what I'm referring to?
No.
I'm talking about what by our modern Western sensibilities would be considered extreme. It would be considered fanatic, and yet our sages praised it.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And to be clear, just because our sages praise something does not mean it is mandatory. Does not
So
mean
I have an idea if I bring
established as the norm. Yes, sir.
So in Mechoros 22:3 about the hair that grows on the neck. That would be extreme.
What does it
Do
say?
we cover that?
Summarize.
So it goes into talking about if one is obligated to cover the hair on the neck as the same of covering the hair on the head for a woman, if they should have that issue of having an extension of hair growth, and what should one do in that event?
Excellent. So I'm thinking even more extreme than this.
More extreme than that. Okay.
Yes.
Ooh.
I will give you a hint regarding Yehuda. Judah.
Is it covering the face?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, could you paraphrase what you recall?
What I recall is, well, the intent, but not just the intent, but
it's part of an explanation of a Talmudic explanation for a certain question that we find in the text of the Torah.
Okay. I'm thinking.
I mean, you're in the right topic, you know, in the right event.
Yeah.
So what happened? Let's start with Hodaya. What do you recall about Yehuda and Tamar? I just realized we didn't state the name. So Yehuda and Tamar in the book of Genesis.
You want the story?
Yeah.
Okay, so Tamar married one of Yehuda's sons, his oldest son, and they didn't have children. So then the subsequent sons married her and failed to have children with her until only his youngest remaining son was left, who he said was too young to marry her, and refused to give her children by him. So Tamar took matters into her own hands and had had children with Yehuda instead of with his youngest son.
All right. And it says that he did not recognize her because
she was dressed like a prostitute, wasn't it?
She covered her face. He thought that she was a
prostitute
because she covered her face. So I had been taught growing up that he thought she was a prostitute because you can understand it actually in more than one way. But I was taught that he thought she was a prostitute because it's prostitutes who cover their faces.
I was
Right.
taught the same.
So
Right.
what?
I was taught the same.
Yeah, but what do we read in the Torah, the same book, regarding Rebecca?
She covered her face before she saw Isaac.
Do you
Or when
think
she saw Isaac.
Isaac would have wanted to? Do you think, like,
Here comes a prostitute.
do you think that Abraham and Elazar was a prostitute?
Right. Right.
I mean, the whole shock of the book of Hosea, of the book of Hosea, is that God is ordering a prophet to marry a prostitute. It's a shock because that ain't what you do.
Right.
If covering the face is a matter is something associated with prostitution, why does the same book, not too far from this place, portray the one of the mothers of Israel as a prostitute?
Hmm.
That's not what it means. It doesn't really make sense what it means. You could say that he thought she was a prostitute and that's not connected to her covering her face, that is mentioned there, but that's not why he thought she was a prostitute. But
That's just why he didn't recognize her.
only that's why he didn't recognize her, and
Yeah.
that he thought he thought she was a prostitute because she was standing at the crossroads.
Hmm.
Okay, and then her standing at the crossroads made him think she was probably a prostitute, and he did not recognize her because she covered her face. That's the way our sages understood it.
Well, that sure paints a different picture, doesn't it?
And then they say, well, certainly, and I'm putting words because filling in the gaps of their explanation in the Talmud. Then the line of reasoning is rather that, well, you should have another question. Okay, so he didn't recognize her at the crossroads because, she, of course, her face was covered, but that's not that she was a prostitute. That's just what was the norm. They, in public spaces, would cover their face. This is millennia before Islam. But the question should arise, okay, well, what about when they left the crossroads? When surely, I mean, if he's going to be with a prostitute, he's okay with a candle. Shouldn't he have recognized who it is? Do you see how one question can lead to another? And we cannot state with objective confidence that for sure this is the scenario, exactly what happened. Maybe Judah knew and he just didn't care because he was so, what's the word? Rowdy. I was trying to find a clean word here for you guys.
Yeah.
But maybe it wasn't any noble thing behind this at all, and he was just rowdy, and he knew that it was Tamar afterwards. But our sages say, or rather they insinuate in the Talmud, but it's clearly insinuated, that he did not know it was Tamar even afterwards. So how could that be? Because when it says she covered her face, it means generally, not just in the public spaces, but generally she was covering her face. So even though he knew Tamar, but he didn't know what she looked like, because she would cover her face even when she was around her father-in-law, even in private residences. And our sages do not say that this is a requirement, to be clear. They do not say that it is proper to impose this on all women, to be clear. They do not say that. That is not in the text of the Talmud. However, there absolutely is not this concept that physical modesty, modesty of clothing, is a barbaric concept, and that the more you reveal, the more liberated you are. That is completely foreign to classical Judaism. You could say that it's not foreign to a modern evolution of the Jewish people if you believe that getting more and more naked is an evolution. But the idea that being more modest even than other Jewish women is something to be castigated or shunned is not a part of classical Judaism. If you are becoming obsessed about it to some unhealthy degree, and of course you got to define unhealthy, but if it's truly unhealthy, and you're obsessed with modesty to the point that it's harming you or harming other people, of course, you should rein it in a bit. But at least the sages of the Talmud did not view a woman covering herself, even her face, more than the law requires. As I'm sorry, I didn't know that all these things would be popping up. I don't know if you can see
Right.
that.
We know.
Oh,
No.
okay. They didn't know that. Oh, I don't remember what my line of thought was. Anybody have any comment up to this point? There's more that can be said. Go ahead. I'm getting to a point here, but
So we're talking. Yibum is the story. Yibum.
Yeah,
The
please explain.
Levirate
What is Yibum?
Levirate marriage, which I don't know if that only is for the tribe of Levi or if
This
all
was
the
before
tribes
the Torah was
practice this.
given. This was before the Torah was given. So we do see here that the concept of Yibum as a noble principle predated the Torah.
Okay, so it's when she was childless, and the brother is the one responsible to step in and provide the heir, I guess is what
Right.
the whole purpose is. So
To inherit the birthright in his name. Yeah.
mhm.
Okay. But what about Matt? Questions about modesty? Feel free to push back.
I've had it with you and
Yes.
your over
Well,
face coverings.
one would say that you're reading too much into it. Says first she covered her face, and you could easily understand a person thinking that the sages were reading too much into it, because you would say, if it meant what they suggested it meant, that she covered her face in general, then you would expect it to say she used to be covering her, like she would always cover her face, in a sense of she would cover her face. She used to always cover her face. But what's the problem with that? Hebrew does not have all these various tenses that English has. Not all languages are the same. English has present simple, present progressive, past progressive, past simple. Hebrew doesn't have present simple. Hebrew doesn't have either of the distinction doesn't exist. And if there's something that's understood as a cultural norm, you can add a bunch of extra words to give a fuller sense. But if something is widely understood, then it's unnecessary to, such as if it is widespread knowledge that women just simply do not, and I'm not saying that this is the law, again, to be clear, but something does not have to be the law for it to be a cultural norm. So if it is widely known that the cultural norm is women do or do not do XYZ, or men do or do not do XYZ, then you have no need to go out of your way to expound upon it, because you're supposed to know this. Yes, sir.
So with your immediate family, a woman would not necessarily cover her face or even her hair, say in a house or.
There's no. I'm
but
unaware.
yeah.
I'm unaware of any universally accepted code of Jewish law, nor am I aware of anywhere in the Talmudic literature or in the Mishnah of a law that requires women to cover even their hair when they're in privacy,
Right.
or even
Right.
when they're around strangers, but not out in a public thoroughfare.
So in this case, we're talking about a father-in-law.
Yes. It's
So
clearly beyond
immediate family, obviously, but
it's clearly beyond the letter of the law. I've never encountered anyone or any text that says that this is the letter of the law, that women cover their faces, even in
no.
even in private residences.
So
But
a
that
little
doesn't
extreme,
mean,
but not disallowed. She was fine to be and
right.
admirable to be like that.
Right. And our sages also expressed that this was her voluntary practice. This wasn't that she was coerced, and they praise her for it. They don't just state it. In the Talmud, they praise her for this. They don't say, "Oh, you nutcase," misrepresenting Jewish women like that.
Let's burn her out. Let's burn her at the stake. Let's burn her.
So my point regarding this is that a practice can be praiseworthy or even a good idea, even if it's not the technical requirement of the law. You may not, let's say you have you have a neighbor who has no family, and you have many poor people who you could help host at your Shabbat meal, or and you invite them regularly to your Shabbat meal because they have no family. If you find out it's their birthday, there's no law that you need to throw them a party, you know. But if you know especially if you know that they're sad, they feel uncared for, and you inviting them to Shabbat every week means the world to them. Although there's no law saying you have to throw them some kind of a birthday party, and please, I'm speaking to viewers, not to you guys. I'm sure some people are thinking birthday parties, you can't have birthday parties. Forget that.
Pagan.
Their anniversary, they're doing a random party on some random day, and it just happens to fall on their birthday. Okay. You're not violating halakha by not throwing them a party. But if it's well within your means and you have the time to do it, and it won't interfere with any other thing, is it not the right thing to do? They live right across the road from you. No? Is it not the right thing to do? If you have the ability, your schedule's open, you know that it will lift their spirits. It's no burden on you. Is it not the right thing to do? There are endless examples of where God left our expression of his will to our discretion within a certain framework, but he left it to our discretion how we're going to express his will, and with the expectation that we will use our brains, the brains that he gave us. If he would write every single thing out for us that we should do in every scenario, fewer people would keep the Torah and align with his will than currently do. The book is already thick enough. It can't be all spelled out for you, right? He teaches us the principles. We apply them using the brain that he gave us. So with regard to modesty or questions of modesty, whether we're talking about in dress or in speech or in any other matter, there is a place for you to use the brain that God gave you. When the Torah says something with regard to modesty or any other matter, and you don't fully understand why we would ever do that, if you embrace Torah, if you accept God's will, you should do it anyway. But there are questions, there are scenarios in life and in different circumstances where it's not exactly obvious what the strict letter of the law is. That's why there's so many pages upon pages of commentaries on commentaries regarding halakha, Jewish law. But that's because Jewish law in its source texts does not expound on every scenario. And if you have a doubt, especially regarding rabbinic law, you should be lenient. But if you understand that there's a principle in Torah that is being dealt with, even though the letter of the halakha is not explicit, but there's a principle in Torah. If you want to be more strict for the sake of Torah, for the sake of God, for the sake of, I mean, at the end of the day, it's for the sake of everybody, because the Torah is for the good of all mankind. It is your right to choose to be more strict than what the people around you do. What are some ways, Mr. Victor, since you're in the hot seat here, you're the one feeling my screen. What are some things perhaps that you do or that come to mind that you feel like it's the right thing to do, even though it's not explicitly required?
I haven't really put much thought into that. Personally anyway, but the image I used to kind of promote this class today, with the kind of with the idea of head coverings for ladies. Let me share my screen.
You put a woman with big, fluffy, voluminous hair from the 80s?
Something like that.
Shalom, y'all.
All right, here we go. So I put I says give me was it
Holy smokes,
like
man.
I Dream of Jeannie.
Oh
Give me
my
I
God.
Dream of Jeannie and then a lady in a
I
burqa.
think we should. So what?
Which to me, a lady in a burqa and an I Dream of Jeannie kind of character, and thinking both of them are
I think we
wearing a
should
head
cover up the
covering.
bottom part of the screen.
Exactly. Well, yeah. And that's my point.
Oh my
When you were
goodness.
talking about Tamar's story, I'm visualizing this one on the right
Yeah.
and I'm going, huh, that actually, we look at it as, well, that's just extreme. And I'm thinking, you just told a story that said that this was her way, that he didn't even recognize her. And
Not
obviously the
not
one on
only
the
did our
left has
sage
a,
not only did our sages not say that who does she think she is for going above and beyond what the norm was, but they praised her for it. They said that Mashiach will come from her loins because of this.
wow,
Because
that's
of it.
pretty heavy.
That is their opinion. We don't
Yeah.
know that
Well,
that's the reason, but that's their opinion. And it says something about their line of thinking. You cannot say that our sages
very
had
praiseworthy.
modern. Say what?
It was just a very praiseworthy statement.
There are an abundant uh, there are abundant evidences throughout rabbinic literature regarding covering of modest covering that make it abundantly clear that our sages, whether in the right or in the wrong, and I am of the opinion that our sages can be wrong about something,
Absolutely.
or they could say that XYZ is the halakha, and it may have been extremely reasonable in their times, but in some other scenario that they never experienced, it's really not the right thing to do. That doesn't mean that the halakha changed. Sometimes halakha should be suspended in certain scenarios, and we're not talking about every single thing, but some things should be suspended. There are 3 exceptions. I'm trying to stay on target here. It's so hard, you guys. But but where was I going with this? Oh my goodness, I didn't get enough sleep as usual.
Well, I'll butt in that way you'll remember it.
So
Because
what?
that's what I'll butt in, and that way you'll recall
Oh
what it was.
yes, exactly. What was
So
it?
I think in our minds, like we saw the I Dream of Jeannie looking character with a head covering, and that would be our idea of the prostitute.
Yes.
And in reality, it was probably more like the one who had her. She was dressed modestly, just happened to be in the place that where all the others would
It's
have been.
because she was at the entrance to the city, and women don't hang around in those places. Uh,
Mm,
I think I remember. Oh, I remember now exactly as you said.
you're
I remember
welcome.
where I was going before. It was with regard to modern day rabbis and their assertions regarding women covering their hair in halakha. So it's my a little personal note about myself. I feel like I don't fall into male stereotypes very much. I feel like really weird often when I'm around regular guys and they're talking about sports or hunting or uh I don't but
Fishing.
there is
Oh,
one thing about me that is like super stereotypical. I have a very one-track mind, and sometimes when I have like 2 or 3 thoughts at the same time and I'm trying to weave them
oh,
out. Oh my gosh, it's hard. It's so difficult. I can hardly even walk and talk at the same time. I'm serious.
that's me. That's
I
me.
can walk, but I don't know where I'm going. I need to be like right next to someone, and if they don't know where they're going, we're both going to get lost if I'm speaking, you know. It's
Wow,
crazy.
that's a
It's
need to know. Let me mark that down.
yep, it's
Walk
pretty
next to
extreme.
Rabbi.
It's really extreme with me. I'm not
Okay.
exaggerating on
Yeah.
that. So what we see from this and we find in a plethora of statements in rabbinic literature is that no matter how hard modern day well-intended rabbis may try to um, cloak their politically correct sensibilities and sympathies with the modern Western woman onto our sages, if you expose yourself broadly to rabbinic literature, it is very clear that even if by the letter of the law you could somehow prove that married women in Judaism do not or should not be covering their hair, even if you could prove that somehow by the letter of the law, it is certainly not the spirit of our sages. That it was certainly not their mindset that Jewish women be tolerated. And there are also limits, to be clear, for Jewish men as well, obviously, but that Jewish women should not be just tolerated to walk around publicly however they like, however they like. And although there's nothing immoral or anti-Torah to already be convinced that Jewish women do not need to cover their hair even after they're married, I don't think that's inherently evil. And if someone's truly convinced of that, they should be heard and make their point, and hopefully they can convince people, because that would be awesome, right? But it's going to be very difficult to prove that that's what our sages had in mind, at least as the norm. And the letter of the law is not always intended to be what is proper. There is a letter of the law that you can spit in a synagogue, that you can walk into a synagogue with your t-shirt on. Who says that that's the right thing to do, to be spitting in a synagogue? That's the lowest level that's tolerated in a synagogue. And in the context, it is for extreme circumstances. It is clear if you expose yourself to the broad text of rabbinic literature and the Torah, the Bible, that is not appropriate behavior, yet the letter of the law allows it. There are numerous examples of this. You are able to fulfill reciting the Shema in any position, That is the clear conclusion of the Mishnah. It was a debate between Hillel and Shammai. Hillel held that you had to recite Shema in specific postures. At night, you had to be reclining. In the day, you had to be getting up. But the halakha ma'aseh, the practical law, is you fulfill your obligation in any position. But who says that that means that you should be reciting Shema with your legs spread eagle to the sky?
Not so much. Not such a good idea.
There is a community standard which is based on reason and based on the spirit of our sages, even though it's not the letter of the law. There, I could go through there's an endless array of examples. When you read this story about Tamar, it is obvious that our sages, even if they did not hold that women must cover their faces anywhere, which is also, to be clear, not my position. Not only at home are you not required, but I don't believe women are required to cover their face anywhere. I've not seen any evidence that that is a universal requirement. But it's clearly their theological or halachic tendency to admire modesty of clothing in women. Not just modesty of behavior, which is equally important, more important at the end of the day, but not just modesty of speech, but also modesty of clothing. Like, this is some kind of a thing that should not be spoken about in the religious Jewish world, in the westernized American, especially religious Jewish world. But you're denying Judaism. Why are you ashamed? What are you trying to run from? Like, this is 2025. Yes, people can do whatever they want, but they can also open up Safaria and read. Like, they can see if our Judaism, or what we do in the name of Judaism, is actually what's there or not. We don't want to be portraying a Judaism that can easily be debunked and be fodder for our enemies to say these people are just making up stuff in the name of Moses and using the name Israel and Jew to get political brownie points. We don't want to do that. We don't want to be viewed as hypocrites. So are you guys open to looking at what Maimonides at least wrote regarding the actual halachot of modesty? You can take it or leave it.
100%. But are there any other comments? I see Hodiah popped back on, and Uriah, you're always welcome to jump in, of course.
Yeah, definitely, Uriah. Don't be afraid
I'm
to
here.
disagree.
I'm
Don't
here.
be afraid to
He's
disagree.
here.
I'm here. I'm listening.
Don't be
I'm
afraid
ready.
to push back. Don't be afraid.
So when we look at the concept of hair covering, because
Yeah.
like my wife covered her hair for most of our marriage, but now she's, in the military doing what she needs to do
Yes,
for the reasons why she's there. She can't cover.
sure.
And we struggle with that because like a part of her dress changed to be more updated, more modern, which means no skirts, no dresses and stuff like that all the time.
Mhm.
And she asked me, like, how would I measure such a situation halakhically on Jewish law that would not be too questionable in the community to bring on snickering in
Yeah.
from
You're never going to be able
other
to avoid
women.
that altogether,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So I says, look, some modern Muslim women dressed very modestly. Why couldn't that be accepted just because she's wearing a type of clothing that some insular Orthodox communities would see as questionable because it can be perceived the wrong way?
I'm sure you can vouch for this, even in the Haredi world, if you take two women and one is wearing pants and
Yeah.
a long shirt over the pants, a
Yeah.
loose shirt over the pants, and the pants are loose
Yes.
and they are not transparent in any way. If you take her and then you put her next to a woman who everything is covered, but everything is skin tight and she's not wearing pants.
Exactly.
There are a lot of people in the so-called ultra-Orthodox community that would say that the greater sinner of these two is the one wearing pants, loose pants and a loose shirt, but not wearing a black dress and skin-tight pantyhose underneath.
Yeah.
The one that's all skin-tight so much, I have seen women in the most, well, not in Mea Sharim. I never saw this in Mea Sharim, but other Haredi neighborhoods. I have seen
Yeah.
Haredi women, ultra-Orthodox, in quotes, women, wearing clothes so tight that it almost looks like a joke as they walk.
Yeah.
And that is tolerated. But a woman who is wearing pants that are not tight and an untucked shirt over her rear, she's going to be viewed like she's like, I mean,
The
I
hussy.
don't know the word, but
Yeah.
she's clearly not one of us.
Not from enough. Not from
Yes.
enough.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's ridiculousness. That is
So
that's a mockery.
we did that here in Ohio, and now I'm from New York, so in those communities we would have a bigger argument to sit down and chew out with. But here in Ohio, we had these conversations because I told her, look, halakhically, let's look at how we can dress modestly based on the book of Modesty and Adornment, right? And I went over the halachot, the Jewish laws on the matter, with my expertise of what I learned. And I said, be what you are in a comfortable way and do what you need to do according to the standard of the known idea in the community. And let's see what happens. And what happened. Like there was an uprising. How could she go from this to this? You came here looking so frum, and we were ready to accept you in. And look, where I come from, yes, I understand. But what you have to understand is we cannot just be one-track mind on the idea. Modesty is modesty no matter what. She's being modest. But do you understand the way we have uniformed the code of dress here? Yes. What you'll be teaching our children that we're trying to teach that, okay, so you want to have an argument with a grown woman based on the idea of how you're teaching your kid? We're not teaching your kid to do other than you. She needs to be comfortable for practical purposes.
Mhm.
And she's well in the parameters of Tzniut. You know, like, I mean, why are we sitting here having this conversation right now when we can be brothers and having a good time getting to know each other rather than arguing with each other?
Right.
Well, do you realize that that if we accept this, then we've been here longer than you've been here, and you just moved into the. Here we go.
Every Jewish community in the United States, especially in the Northeast, should be aware that the oldest communities, to my knowledge, were Sephardic.
Yeah.
So they should
Yeah.
ask what were they doing. They don't usually like to take a very, they often kind of wiggle in their seats in discomfort
Yeah.
when you bring up actual, history, or make them have to ask, have to do a little research and consider maybe we weren't the first here.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I brought that
Even-
up. I said, what's the oldest synagogue in America?
Yeah.
And I could name it for you, and then it wouldn't be in the idea of what you would think
Is
of.
it Mark Angel Synagogue, or was it the one Mikveh Yisrael in Philadelphia?
Philadelphia.
Sherit Yisrael?
Yeah.
Is it?
So when I brought that up, and they were like, "Well, how do you know this?" I was like, "Well,
I went something other than just Gemara.
yeah,
Right.
I thought it would be good to have existential knowledge on many things, not just
Just-
halakhically.
Just like our sages did.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of like the Aristotle of our time. You have to. I like to study everything as long as it's not pseudo version of it.
Yeah.
And some of the rabbis here were like, "Well, we're not telling you you can't come back, but we are telling you that it would be favorable in the eyes of this community that you bur it up a little bit."
Yeah.
I
So
don't
what's
know about
their
that.
sin? What's their sin in this whole thing is the intolerance and
The argument that I brought up is in the point of Yosef. Right? I've sat there on Green Road in Beechwood, and I saw multiple women from Haredi from to modern Orthodox or loose modern Orthodox with wearing tight dresses. And I'm saying, okay, so this is acceptable,
And they can
but
be
my wife
very
isn't.
tight. But we're talking
And,
about very tight.
and I'm talking about showing parts of skin also that would be unacceptable to rabbis I know in Bubba of Brooklyn. So if I said I bring these rabbis in, you know what they're going to say about these women, let alone my wife? And you want to argue with my wife being modest in a more modern way? I mean, this is a hypocritical argument that you're bringing on me, and I'm new to the community. Well, I'm not new to the community, but to your community. I mean, this is unfair for us.
Absolutely.
You're putting a stringency on a person who knows what they're talking about and has sat my wife down and went over the text thoroughly and put together for something for her to be still comfortable and be integrated into the community here respectfully. And you're treating her lesser now as a Jew from birth, as if she's a second-class citizen within our own citizenship of communities. This is not proper. This argument right here is unacceptable. And I brought my Rav from New Jersey down on to comment on the situation through a phone call, and he holds a lot of weight. And they got a little ornery with him. And I was taken back at that point. I was like, okay, if this is the way the community is going to be on this matter, they're pushing the boundaries of halakha. This is extreme, even for Ohio standards. And Ohio is not New York. I think we could all agree on that.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Like New York would be the secondary to Jerusalem itself.
Yep.
Or
Bnei
replace it.
Brak. Don't forget Bnei Brak.
Yeah, Bnei Brak, yeah.
770.
Yeah. So I felt like this argument among many other arguments that opened up from it, was you're trying to utilize an extreme idea of modesty in a modern time. And now I see there's a struggle between three head rabbis in this community, from a shtetl rabbi to a modern Orthodox, that everybody's at each other's throats on the idea of modesty here. Because what I see on Shabbat with the people walking up and down the most highest traffic for synagogues, I see a display of lots of arguments we could have then on many manners of what I hear people talking about, to how I see people dressing, to on anything.
Would there be a
If we're
difference in what you would instruct your wife if you guys were heading to the kotel, or would it be the same instructions?
I would say try a little harder, only in the respects of the minhag of the community. If you're going into a new place for the first time, but being that we were already here for a year, and I
you
come from where I
degraded.
come from, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I came here with payas longer than most people have them. I'm talking about longer than, let's say, Rabbi Moshe Kasuto. And black suit, black hat, just the whole entire getup. And it slowly peeled away because of how I was being treated, even though I have what I have and I know who I know and where I was born. So I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, this is Ohio. This is not Borough Park, Brooklyn. This is not 770. This is not White Plains, New York. This is not Muncie. This is Ohio.
Right.
I mean, I could understand this argument in Muncie, but not here.
Yep. The location does make a difference.
Yeah, it does. I mean, this is Beechwood, Ohio. I mean, yeah.
So, well, man, there was something I want to add, but I would love to hear Hodaya's thoughts. We have the only lady in the room so far, and I imagine we all have something more to share, but we're
don't... letting ladies talk. I'm sorry, what?
Well, only with our permission.
Oh, yeah. All right, 30 seconds, go. Okay.
Yalla. What are your thoughts with it? Yeah.
So first, Oria, I'm sorry that you and your wife are going through this. This is not the way that you should be treated.
Thank you.
In some of the conversations I've had with other women recently, something that's come up is a lot of the single women that I know would like to cover their hair because they know that that's what the sages have suggested that they should do, but they also are aware of the cultural implications that has for them in a Jewish community, that people will assume they're married, and so they don't cover because they think that that'll make them less approachable, that people will just make the assumptions that they're not single and they won't find as many opportunities.
So, and we can learn from that already, that we shouldn't assume a person's mindset based on their, some behavior, even their dress. It does make sense that sometimes you could make conclusions, but we shouldn't be confident in those conclusions unless we are exposed to the, especially if we speak to the person. You should speak to the person, not just assume. That's a interesting thing to know. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I've heard that from several women recently.
So it's interesting to note that in many Middle Eastern communities, well, I know that this was common in Yemen. I haven't researched it for all Middle Eastern communities, but Yemen was not just one community. There were different communities in Yemen that they like was traditionally done all over Middle Eastern Jewish communities, not only in Yemen, that the unmarried women did cover their hair. That was the historical practice throughout the Middle East of the Jewish people. Unmarried women did cover their hair. But in Yemen, they distinguished between married and unmarried women, not by whether or not they cover their hair, but by the style of the covering, the color of it, or the pattern on it. It's really not like if it were actually a community-wide observance, or simply you just told, some people, some women do it, and even if not everybody's doing it, but some women do it, and community leaders, or the women in the community who are prominent in the community, let it be known that if you see them wearing hair covering XYZ, it means they're single. Well, that's really a simple solution. It's really not complicated. But I think the bigger difficulty is not that. It's the social pushback. The same way that a woman can be unfairly treated or misjudged because she's not covering her hair, you could also be judged for covering your hair. And it kind of sucks to make such a big deal out of hair. But what I do think often gets lost in the westernized world, westernized sector of the Jewish world, is that the same way women can be judged for not covering their hair, they can also be judged or feel a sense of pressure also for being perceived as too modest or trying to show themselves as super religious or something. And when really they're not necessarily trying to do that, they're just sincere, but it is making other Jewish women feel insecure about their own.
Right.
And this is not just with women. This happens to men as well in different ways as well. This is a broader problem of human psychology. But my favorite thing about Torah Judaism, and I think it's something that distinguishes us as a system, Torah Judaism, at least conceptually, has this concept that the exception to the rule does not nullify the generality for the general population, but also the generality does not nullify the exception. There's a recognition of reality in Judaism, classical Judaism. There's a recognition that there are general rules and there are universal principles, but they don't nullify exceptions to the rule, and vice versa. And if you want a qualified rabbi, it should be somebody who can give respect to both of those things, to both the generalities, the general universal principles, as well as your own unique case, and instruct you, or I don't want to say shepherd, mentor you in the right direction for your unique position. And that also goes for communities as well. What may be the general law for the people of Israel, the general halakha, may not work. It may simply not work for certain communities. That doesn't mean that the standard should be erased, or that we should revise history and make believe things that were not true. We can recognize history while also recognizing the reality at hand and say, okay, this local community is just not at a place where they can be doing what other Jewish communities are doing, and we need to meet them where they're at without judging them, without viewing them as inferior. And that is the approach of classical Judaism, exhibited by the greatest of our sages from the Talmudic era and on. That's something I'm very proud of. And this certainly is relevant to the question of modesty. I would like to hear more voices. I don't like when I talk too much.
I agree with you on that.
There's a point where I start saying the Energizer Bunny and the statement that goes with it in those old commercials.
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
Good.
Yes. And you brought up a good point. The kind of head covering you wear. Now that is very interesting, because there was conversations I had here over what do you wear and why, and what is the minhag you hold by. And a rabbi and a son of a rabbi sat down with me in these discussions and talked about, well, in this community where we only wear sheitel, And I said, well, from where I come from, my wife wears a tichel, a head wrap,
Yeah.
and why are we arguing this point now? He's like, well, it's more acceptable to wear the sheitel. I was like, well, according to the post-scheme of the 16th century, you outlawed this, but then you changed it in the 18th and 19th century later on
Pretty
and
recent.
reversed.
Oops.
Yeah, and you reversed the halakha on it and the final measurement on the law, and now you wear a sheitel after you outlawed it. I mean,
And
now you
something tells
bring
me that when it was outlawed, even then, those shaitels did not look nearly as convincing and shiny as they do
yes.
As today.
and bouncy.
So I says, I mean, the shaitels that you guys are wearing now, it's like you're wearing your actual hair, so it kind of defeats the mitzvah.
Better than the hair. It's better than
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
So we had this discussion back and forth for at least an hour, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's just not going to budge on this.
And the worst thing is that sometimes, again, this is a general idea. This just falls into it along with many other examples. Sometimes we are, while being too concerned with getting out of line with the norms of our community and defending what our community does, we jeopardize the welfare and the reputation. But those two things are connected, welfare and reputation. We end up jeopardizing the welfare of Jews all over the place. And this is especially the case when we make a mockery of Torah and of Judaism. When we make a mockery of Judaism, we make a mockery of the Jewish people. And that ultimately affects, at the end of the day, it can affect our security. That may sound like an exaggeration, but it ain't. It's not.
Oh, I'm dealing with that here, and
it makes us, we look like a joke. Like,
yeah,
are you going to wear a shirt that is extra thick, extra? This is what I always said with regard to shaitels since my early 20s, and I first was seeing it in the ultra religious, super orthodox world. If simply because you're covering the hair, that makes it legitimate, even if the covering being used is more luring than what you're actually covering, if that's acceptable, then why can't women wear shirts that are not tight? They're less revealing than what they normally wear, but they have a big photo of the most beautiful, voluptuous breasts you've ever seen. They're not real breasts.
Yeah.
What is the difference? There's no difference. That would be a joke. And how is the shadel any different? It's not. It's not any different. Exactly. I'm going to walk around with silicone breasts. It's not transparent. It's I'm covering my breasts. Look how they bounce. I'm not trying to be dirty. I'm serious. It is a freaking joke. No. And then Muslims,
it is.
Look at this. Christians look at this and they laugh at us.
Yeah. We do it to ourselves though. And then we have arguments with each other on the matter of who's doing better than the next. And I say to myself, these have to be more topics of discussion in communities that are going to take each other seriously, not break each other down, and not humiliate each other.
You can't do it. The ways there's a general respect for common sense. First and foremost, if they don't respect common sense, you can't even have the discussion.
And that's what I've been seeing lately. And I'm saying, is this everywhere? I want to know if this is everywhere now, just not just where I'm staying now.
Like, just uncover your hair. Like,
yeah. So my wife asks me now that she's in the military. She's like, "What do I do?" Like, I says, "Well, you got to do what you got to do.
What is she
just
doing?
Don't lose."
If you can say,
she's going in to be a Marine. She's in phase 1 right now. She's in recovery, and she's going to do logistics. So she's going to be dealing with, things like that. Supply, demand, setting up routes for convoys and getting out the supplies.
When she's off duty, she's permitted to, I don't know how often she's off duty, but like if she goes home, for example, she's permitted to cover her head with a hat, would she not be? I'm not asking about what
Yeah.
she would or wouldn't want to do, but as far as
Yeah, so I told her wear the hat most of the time because you have
Right.
two types of hats. You have your dress up hat, and then you have your dress down hat and your fatigues. So just wear the hat.
are you saying even at work she could wear the hat?
Yeah,
Oh, then
if
that's
she feels that she needs to.
okay.
And my Rav, he's a very, very nuanced person when it comes to being acceptable and fair. He says, do your best. I would say to you, don't go because of course there might be risk of violations of some Jewish laws and Shabbat and stuff like that. But if you have to because there's a pressing matter, then do your best.
Certainly in the context of combat in the land of Israel for the sake of the Jewish people, Milhamet Mitzvah, a war from which we are bound by Torah to engage in for self-defense, to defeat those that seek our genocide. In those cases, in all classical opinions, women are obligated to join. If I remember correctly, certainly the Rambam, but I don't recall any alternative view for a Milhamet Mitzvah that everybody, even the women, have a mitzvah, a command to engage in that war until we defeat the people who want to slaughter us.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. If you put two halachot side by side, but one is a Torah commandment and then the other is a rabbinic injunction, which is a greater issue about violating?
The Torah.
The what?
The Torah.
Yeah.
It's a great issue to violate the Torah over the Rabbanan.
What is the halakha regarding violation of Torah prohibitions during a war, regarding food?
Same thing. Like, you have the leniency to partially suspend in wartime.
We're not nullifying the command not eat pig, for example. But during war, you can eat unkosher food and you're not held liable by the courts of righteous Israel. You're not.
And I hold that that law to extension to America as to serve here too, because there are Jews here, and America has been a great ally to the Jews everywhere, since the early 1900s.
That will be a question of how does it apply, and I can see how that could apply. There could be debate back and forth, but you can say though that there's precedent for suspending, not nullifying, but suspending mitzvot deoraita, Torah commandments, in a case of a war of what is the word? An existential war. There's explicit permission to set aside the commandment prohibiting certain normal prohibitions. You would say, or I would hope that one would say, all the more so a rabbinic prohibition of showing your hair in a public space during a war. So you have such a leniency that you can eat pig during a war, but the women can't uncover her hair. What?
Yeah.
Of course she can uncover her hair.
Yeah. So like I say to anybody, not just my wife, but to anybody, because she says I have questions that the rabbi here as the chaplain won't answer because he's under a strict guidance of rule.
Right.
In military law.
In most Jewish communities or ultra-Orthodox Jewish communities, the norm, in practice, the norm has more weight than the objective ikaradin, the essence of the law that you will find in the source text. That in practice is reality. In theory, the community norm is supposed to be based on those source texts. But in practice, if it is not based on the source text, or even if it contradicts the source text, it is the community norm that gets precedence. And that's a big problem. You can't question it.
So that's the thing. When it comes to military service, there are temporary suspensions of certain things, including kashrut.
Right.
So don't eat the pork, eat the other treif food that would be deemed kosher if it was done right.
This is all if you have a choice. That's all if you have.
Yeah, if you have a choice. But if you're behind enemy lines in the open battlefield, and the only thing there is an MRE with pork in it, eat it.
Yeah,
You have to eat it.
You would be sinning. You would be violating Torah if you did not.
Yeah.
Correct.
Under the rule of pekuach nefesh, eat it.
If the woman is not going to go out and run to assist her injured fellow Jew because her mitpahat, her headscarf, fell off, and she needs to cover it before running across the road in a public space, she would be violating the Torah if she
Yes.
abstains from running across the road because her hair is showing.
Yeah.
Of course.
So you're bringing up issues like the women have to serve during this threat, but obviously they would, but not any serious Torah student who is in his who's studying yeshiva every
Okay.
for hours a day, 9-10 hours a day. They're exempt
No.
because they also don't want to be around those women in uniform.
What do Hazal say regarding Tamidei Hachamim? I'm talking about the sages of the Talmud. What do
To
they
me,
say?
they go first. They should be.
It's
They
not
should
that
be
should.
leading.
That's the
Yeah.
halakha ma'aseh. That is
Yeah.
Yes.
that is the instruction of Hazal. We cannot say that we are Torah Jews and just turn our head from the instruction of our sages. He who turns his ear away from heeding the words of Torah, even his prayer, is to'ava. It's an abomination. And
Yes.
it says, "Shena'aseh." What does it say? Uriah?
Yeah, so I that would be a serious capital offense.
Well, if you're a Dayan, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but even in the smallest framework of the law, that it's a serious violation of the Torah.
As a Dayan, if you actually have smicha in a proper system of Jewish law, if we actually had it in practice, if we had a great Sanhedrin and we had a Dayan who's publicly instructing people to go against the instruction of Hazal, the instruction of our sages who had smicha and ruled as a community, as a group. If you have any Dayan, no matter how wise and respected he is, if he teaches publicly to violate the instruction of our sages, even on the smallest matter, it's a death penalty.
Yeah.
We don't care how the
I just don't want to say that openly because most people will look at it, that's extreme. How can you say?
That's our law.
Yeah, but it has to be said.
Israel falls apart when we ignore that.
Yeah, and national defense is the only occupation in the world that alleviates. That is allowed to partially suspend Torah law.
Any
that and
go ahead.
And being a doctor or first responder for stuff
really,
like that.
At the end of the day, they're kind of along the same lines. They're preserving the life of the people.
Yeah, but one's a choice and one's a mitzvah. Because one doesn't have to go and become a cop, and then work on Shabbat, but one has to defend the survival of the nation.
We need both, but yeah, one is more pressing.
One is heavier than the other in law.
So I was hoping that we could look at what the Rambam says in the laws of marriage regarding hair covering, because that was the main topic that was brought up today. I don't know if we publicized it as that, but that's what I was told. Did we publicize it as that?
Let me see how I worded that.
Well, it doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and well, how did you word it?
Yes.
Okay, so Tzniut, modesty or privacy in Jewish religious context. Today we discuss the ebb and flow of regional and cultural norms and the halakha passed down from Israel's sages.
Okay.
See you at 9 a.m.
So, in summary, can you guys hear me? Okay, I see. So, in summary, Tzniut, as we see in the book of Micah, chapter 6, what verse was that? Verse 9, I think, 6-9. where it says you should walk humbly with God. The word used there is not the standard word for humility. It's the word hasnea, which is the imperative form of be modest, but literally it means restraint, self-control. That passage itself can be understood in both restraint or modesty in the sense of not making a pompous show of your walk with God. In other words, walk modestly with God, not arrogantly, but modestly. But of course, it also can mean that in walking with your God, you should not contradict the humility that should go with walking with God. They can't be divorced. Walking with God and humility go hand in hand. And if you are humble, you're going to have restraint. These go hand in hand. You cannot be humble and then waving around your beauties for the entire world to see, other than for your husband, or when there's just a practical necessity. Everybody knows when it's gone to a different level. So let's look at how the Rambam codifies this in the Mishneh Torah, and we can also look at the underlying source text from the Mishnah. Sharing my screen. Okay, so we are in Hilchot Ishut, chapter 24 of the Laws of Marriage. We will look at the Hebrew if you guys want to look at any particular part, but we will first read the English. I hope this is just not zooming the way I would want it to be.
That's probably good enough.
Is that okay? Or
for me, it is. I think if someone's on a phone, they're going to have difficulty, but they'll have to listen.
Okay. Hodaya, would you like to read? This is halakha 12 of chapter 24, the laws of marriage.
What is meant by the Jewish faith? The customs of modesty that Jewish women practice. When a woman performs any of the following acts, she is considered to have violated the Jewish faith. A, she goes to the marketplace or lane with openings at both ends without having her head fully covered, i.e., her hair is covered by a handkerchief, but not with a veil like all other women. B, she spins flax or wool with a rose on her face, or on her forehead, or on her cheek, like immodest Gentile women. C, she spins in the marketplace and shows her forearm to men. D, she plays frivolously with young lads. E, she demands sexual intimacy from her husband in a loud voice until her neighbors hear her talking about their intimate affairs. Or F, she curses her husband's father in her husband's presence.
Okay, so what we see here is that there is no, at least from the Mishneh Torah, there is no requirement that a woman cover her hair, never mind her head, but she does not even have to cover her hair if she is not in a lane that's open at both ends, or in a shuk, which literally is a marketplace, but that was synonymous with the public shared spaces that are frequently traversed by people. The most populated of pedestrians in a given area. That's what the shuk was. They did not have modern day cities like today. So in her own home, or when she's in any home where there's not an opening to the end of a road, there's no law that she cover her hair. At least that's not what the Rambam brings in the Mishneh Torah. So although that is the norm, just that everybody know what the general practice is, in the religious Jewish world, it is the norm that women cover their hair, even in their homes, even if they're in their car, even if they're visiting friends, their hair is usually covered. But we see that it's not explicitly mandated here. And it mentions here the Jewish faith. That's in the context of this entire chapter, where it refers to a woman forfeiting the benefits of her marriage contract. In the case, it's kind of like a prenup. If they divorce, there's certain obligations that a man would have to his divorced wife. If they divorce, if she violates these, then by classical Sephardic halakha, she would forfeit the aid and assistance due to her by her marriage contract in the case that they would divorce if she violated any of these things. And that doesn't mean just that they say she violated. There have to be witnesses. It has to be confirmed. But it's a serious matter. So it doesn't apply when she's in a private place. It's only in public places that she has to cover her head. But is there something unusual here that any of you have noticed that maybe most people don't think about? Any nuance? Don't be
Was it completely
completely what?
covered? Where was that?
Without having her head fully covered.
Fully covered
So
versus some covering,
so
the
like
couple fingers here, that kind of thing.
if you wear a handkerchief, it's not as full coverage as wearing a radid, which is a much larger covering. It's essentially a talit for women that they would wear on their heads, and it would descend
Wrap around the neck.
descend all the way down to their waist.
Mm.
Typically, it would go at least down to their waist. Yeah, and then they would wrap around. That's literally the verb that's used in rabbinic literature to refer to it. The same exact word used for wrapping yourself in a talit. But it was an over covering, so she's not just going out with her basic cloak, with her basic tunic, but on top of the tunic, she's wearing another layer. So there's at least 2 layers being worn, at least. But we see here also a distinction between going to a marketplace, or to a lane or a road or a walkway that is opened at both ends, as opposed to if she goes to a walkway that is not opened at both ends.
So a courtyard, no head covering would be required.
A court, correct.
Interesting.
It's not something that would lead her to forfeit her ketubah, or the securities mandated in the ketubah. Excuse me. So let's look now at Shulchan Aruch. We're going to see a similar law. I have not found, and I don't know that it even exists, listed like this in the Mishnah, but we're now going to look in the Shulchan Aruch, a instruction that I believe at least part of this stems from. And this part of the Shulchan Aruch, it's also in Mishneh Torah, but I want to show that it's also in the Shulchan Aruch as well, because everybody supposedly goes by Shulchan Aruch. And this is verbatim from the Mishnah. Let's see. Lo תלכנה בנות ישראל פרועות ראש בשוק אחת פנויה ואחת אשת איש. The daughters of Israel shall not go about with their heads uncovered in a marketplace, whether they are available for marriage or whether they are a married woman. Hodaya, would you like to read the translation?
Jewish women may not go with uncovered head in the marketplace, whether married or not.
All right. So that's this translation literally is daughters of Israel. If you just do it women, people might say only adult women, and in modern English that has a connotation of even 18 or older, which is not the connotation of women in classical Judaism, because people used to get married.
This would be the one who is old enough to go on her own, not holding the hand of an adult, basically.
Who says that?
I'm asking.
In
other words, does a child who's 8 years old or younger?
It doesn't specify. It just says daughters of Israel. But at the most extreme, if you want to be very literal, the most extreme when she's old enough to walk, because this root word, though you can translate it as go, literally means walking. But the question of when they truly become obligated in that is something that varies from community to community, and she wouldn't be fully obligated until she's at least bat mitzvah. Only at bat mitzvah as a woman, when she turns 12, is she obligated in all of halachot, like all women of Israel. So at the maximum 12, historically speaking. So this is in the Mishnah. I'm not going to pull it up, but it is verbatim. How is this compared to the modern norms? And what are the differences? Let's compare and contrast.
So modern norms, the single women would have their hair uncovered, right?
So that depends. It is still the norm in many religious Jewish communities that unmarried women do cover their hair if they're divorced.
Okay.
Divorced unmarried women still cover their hair. But yes, unmarried women who have never been married, the norm is that they do not cover their hair. Any questions? There's more that we can say, but I don't want to be
Any rebuttals or pushback or rebukes?
or
Can we say divorcees, are they obligated to cover still
so
rather than the norm?
Okay, so now you're making the difference between the normal practice and what is the obligation from the source text. Is that what you're asking? From the
Yes.
source?
So like, let's say a woman who either loses her husband or gets divorced.
Okay.
After the period of time to mourn the situation, is she still required or obligated from the source text to cover her hair? For those who are curious.
From the source text, the most liberal understanding of this is that divorced women are absolutely required to cover their hair. That's the most liberal understanding from that you could possibly get from the source text. And that I would say if you look at everything would be a stretch. But that is the basis for unmarried women who've never been married not being expected to cover their hair nowadays. That is because the Beit Shemuel, which really isn't that old of a commentary, the Beit Shemuel commentary on the Shulchan Aruch says that when it says here unmarried, is talking about divorced women. But the fact of the matter is that that's not what the Shulchan Aruch says. It says married. And unmarried is a word that is as broad as it could be for any kind of unmarried. If it wanted to say divorced, it would just say divorced. There's no reason to not say divorced. There's a universally known Hebrew word for divorce that all Hebrew speakers know. It could just say that. It didn't. And it would not need to say daughters of Israel. It could say Nesuot Israel, the married women of Israel. It doesn't say that. And then you can also look at the Middle Eastern practice, the practice of the Jews in the Middle East. Unmarried girls cover their hair traditionally throughout the Middle East. That did not change until relatively recently with the influx of westernization into the Middle East. And then, which actually happened even before they moved to Israel. There was an influx of Western culture into the Middle East, and many Middle Eastern countries started westernizing a lot, pretty rapidly. And that created an Islamist pushback of real Islamist extremism that then went to another polar opposite extreme. And this was even before they moved to Israel. But then when they moved to Israel, because of persecution, the Ashkenazi Jewish establishment was already strong there, especially in the yeshiva system. And they mostly got influenced by the Ashkenazi. Until today, most of the Sephardic yeshivot are more Ashkenazi than Sephardi in comparison to what they were before they came to Israel. Exceptions exist, but that's the general reality. And so now Sephardic Jews, other than their culinary preferences and melodies, are, when it comes to modesty at least, extremely influenced. Not just the women, but also the men, extremely influenced in their dress by Ashkenazi Judaism. And Ashkenazi Judaism itself is extremely influenced by European norms. And these were not always the norms of the Jews of Europe either. And we can see that from the words of Rashi and from other Ashkenazi commentators pre-Enlightenment period, that there are some pretty big differences. So, for example, like the shaitels they used to wear, even if they did permit them, these were not shaitels of the quality that you see today. But it would have been apparent that that is not normal hair. That all changed. It was looked down upon, in the words of some of our sages, such as Maimonides, that not that they didn't cover their hair, but that they did not wear a radid, that they weren't wearing a cloak that went down. This was what was shocking to them, of the Jews who lived in Are Edom, the cities of Edom, which is a derogatory term in reference to the cities of Europe. And it's used in reference to the practices of Jews of Europe, certain Jews of Europe at the time, who, by the way, were the minority until only a few centuries ago. So if majority rules, then we're now all rebels. But I'm
Yeah.
going on. It's true.
Yeah, because on the matter of the head covering, like,
Did you say on
I
the
get a lot of
matter? Oh, you said on the matter. Go ahead. I was like,
on the matter
okay.
on the matter of the head covering.
Yeah.
There have been questions, recent and old, that I had to deal with on what does a divorcee, like, even with my mother, she's divorced.
Yeah.
She asks me, she no longer covers, but she asked me, is it obligated to still cover? And I says, well, it depends on who you ask and what community you're in,
Right.
and who you wanted to identify to, being that now she lives outside the Eruv. And I says, well, I'm not gonna, from what I know, I'm not gonna tell you based on the stringency of the minhag, but I can say fairly comfortably. I mean, if you don't feel comfortable with doing it, then don't do it. But if you want to lessen the arguments against you, then do it.
It would be appropriate, when asked about this, to first and foremost always say what our source texts teach,
Yeah,
the plain reading of the source text. Then you can say what the majority of the Jewish people historically did. And then you can say what makes most sense in your situation. Because
yes,
even if it would be the right thing to do for a woman to not wear a head covering currently, and there are cases like that, especially, like, let's say she has, what do you call it, alopecia or something? I don't know how to say that.
yeah, alopecia.
Something, a condition where her hair is falling out, and
Yeah,
wearing a hair covering could exacerbate that. Even if it's not that specific condition, there are other conditions. It could be stress or something else. But if
yes,
she has some kind of condition, even if it's not visibly apparent, even if it's just neurological, that is a legitimate reason for her to not cover her hair, if that actually makes it worse, especially if it makes her severely not if she is depressed or unwell.
yeah,
She shouldn't be doing it. But we should not revise, we should not erase, we should not rewrite history and ignore what our sages said because of those conditions. There are people who are not able to have a normal marital setup, a normal marital relationship. It is
yeah,
wrong to coerce them or look down on them if they can't enter into those normal, healthy relationships. But we do not rewrite the halakha. We do not ignore the norm because of the exception. You do not cancel the rule because of the exception. You also don't ignore that there's an exception to the rule. We should say, first and foremost, if we are Jews who are united in our acceptance of the Brit Torah, if we are Jews who are united in the acceptance of the covenant of Israel, which is part and parcel with the acceptance of the sages of Israel when they act as a body, not as individuals, but as a body, those two go hand in hand. So if we are united in that, and then we first and foremost need to acknowledge what our sages taught. We should be able to quote what they taught on a certain matter. Then we can expound on it and how we think it best applies in our local community or on your individual level. But we should not just say, you don't have to do it, and leave it at that. People should know what the Iqar Hadin is. They should know what the original law is. and then they can know whether or not it is proper for them to try to conform to it given their unique situations. That's what should be done, but that is not what's normally done. That is
I
what
agree
should
with
be
you.
done. If we do not do that, and we elevate popular norms independent of the consensus of our sages, then we're not united in the covenant of Israel. There has to be unity in the covenant of Israel. The Jewish identity falls apart without it. We can have plurality of thought on how it best applies in new situations, but we cannot rewrite the history. We cannot
I agree
rewrite
with you on that.
books.
And I'm glad you said that. And then, which follows the case of, if a person comes after you and says, Rabbi, I don't want to cover because I don't want to eliminate the fact that I do want to get remarried, and that might, in the community, hurt my chances.
Correct.
What do I do?
That's very
I
real.
say,
Very real.
yeah. What I would say is, don't go against the majority ruling, but at the same time, if you feel that this is going to hinder your chances of getting remarried, then don't cover.
Yes, because there you're not just saying, "Oh, I don't feel like covering my hair." You're
Yeah.
taking it's not a Torah requirement for a woman to get married.
Yeah.
Here, I was gonna say it's you're asking about a Torah. It's not a Torah requirement, the oraita, but it is a Torah requirement that women heed our sages, and there is a
Yes.
rabbinic law that women get married. It's rabbinic.
Yeah. And I'm glad you bring that up.
Go ahead.
I'm glad that you brought that up to make the distinction.
So, but here you will have one rabbinic law against another rabbinic law, and
Yeah.
you have to ask which one should take precedent, which one is more pressing.
Yes.
If a person is not able to recognize that a woman being able to have emotional security and support of a life partner is more important than temporarily uncovering her hair.
Yeah.
I think they need to go back to the alphabet when it comes to Torah. That it should not even be a question that she does not need to cover her hair if that's going to be a likely impediment in her finding a spouse as soon as possible. And the sooner she finds a spouse, the sooner she'll cover her hair again.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's bringing up the most extreme of cases, because there are people who feel conflicted about that within a community. Like, my rabbi says I still have to cover, but I feel that impedes the process of me finding a husband, knowing that this presents me as married.
She can find another rabbi. Did she
Yeah.
take an oath, a formal oath, saying I have to do everything that he says?
And I'm glad you bring that up,
You can have a
because there's always that. Yeah.
And if she did, well, she can go to 3 other hachamim and nullify that vow. You are not bound in halakha to one human. We serve one alone. One alone. La ilaha illa Hashem wa Musahu Rasul Allah. There is no other God but Hashem, not the Rebbe, not Jesus. And it ain't any better than Jesus, just you call him Menachem, just because you call him Menachem. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not better than worshiping Jesus just because you call him Rabbi Avigdor Miller. It's not better than worshiping the Rebbe of Lubavitch just because you call him, I don't know, Rabbi Scheinberg. There's no difference. There is no authority over us, no one authority over us but God.
Exactly.
The only
and that's
rabbinic authority over the Jewish people that the Torah obligates us in by God's command, the only rabbinic authority is no individual man. It is the consensus council of the scholars of Israel, sheyoshvim balishkat hagazit bebeit hamikdash. Outside of the Beit HaMikdash, there is a practical need for poskim, for rabbinic leadership and guidance. There's a practical need for community cohesion, but they do not have unquestionable and
universal
ultimate authority
over any Jewish person. To do that, to believe in that, you have established him as a god. And Hashem
and this is what me and
you don't have to believe he's the creator of the universe to make him a god.
Yeah, and that's what me and Reb Victor talked about. Like, when he asked me that question too, it's a question that needs to be addressed for people who are known to these ideas and unknown to these ideas for the purposes of whoever might view this video, to answer all those doubts.
Absolutely. Hodaya, Tur Shalach, before we close out. You get
I
the
don't
last
know.
word. Run! Run!
He's going to say, what about the guys? What about the guys?
Rebel
Don't
against
they-
the patriarchy, right?
Yeah.
Defeat the patriarchy. In this case, it could be a woman with a beard. That's the new patriarchy.
Uh,
So I don't want to be the closing voice, but my last words on this topic, unless you guys ask me something, my last words is that one should not cancel the role for the minority, but one should also not cancel the minority for the rule. In Torah, both exist. God cares about both. The Torah cares about both. Both are legitimate, but neither cancel the other. And in the matter of modesty or the doing of any mitzvah, we should always distinguish between Torah obligation, the root command of all commandments, as opposed to the guidelines of our sages, the last known consensus rulings of the sages of Israel, as opposed to local custom, as opposed to personal necessities and situations, without confusing the two and without or the four, and without delegitimizing them, but knowing their proper order. And lastly, to ladun kol adam lekaf zchut, to judge every man favorably, that includes women, of course, and to not judge a person until you stand in their place. Do not judge a woman for not covering her hair if you do not sincerely care about her and if you do care about her, you have talked to her about it compassionately, with sincerity. And if she doesn't want to talk to you about it, it's not your right or duty to delve into her personal matters. So don't judge about that if she's not covering her hair. But if she does cover her hair and she's not married, same goes. If a woman wants to go beyond the bare minimum requirement, which actually there's basis that the source text, unmarried women should be covering their heads. But even if that's not the source text, but she wants to, don't judge her for that either. Each person, let them walk with their God. There is a personal element and there is a national and community element to walking with God. And there's a balance to be found. If we're only looking at the individual's walk with God to the nullification of the community walk with God, then we fall apart as a nation. And if we only look at the community walk with God while ignoring the individual, then we fall apart as the nation. And we will have a proliferation of Korahs. So yin yang, people, we got to find the balance. Tiferet Israel, right? And there we'll find the beauty of Israel. Yardid Torah Yadir Yitzkedar Yitzkadashim Rabba. Then the Torah will be made great, and in its being made great, God's name will be sanctified, and the people of Israel will dwell in peace. Yalla, I give it back to you, Hodaya, and then open board, and we'll close. Yalla,
Well, I agree with everything you just said. So.
All right. Repeat after me. En Eloh.
En
Eloh.
Eloh Hashem. Eloh Hashem.
Eloh Hashem.
Hashem.
Wamosha. Wamoshe. Wamoshe.
Moshe.
Moshe.
Shaliach Hashem.
Shaliach Hashem.
All right, we just did the Jewish original to the Shahada. There is no God but the eternal, and Moses is his messenger. Amen. Okay, well, if you guys have no last words, we'll go ahead and close it up for today. Thank you all for joining us. Any other comments, Come on, Victor. I see those gears turning.
No, I'm just checking the chats, making sure we're good, and I think we're good there. Yeah. To me, the only thing I wanted to say was it makes it real hard for those who are trying to be obedient if they're exposed to some of the religious communities that are intolerant to those who are walking toward Hashem.
We don't want to be a mockery, and we also don't want to be
the
behave in a way
judgmental
that
part.
is so religious that we cancel religiosity.
Oh.
There is a phenomena of being so religious that you push people away. If you're so religious that you're pushing people away, you're not being the light that we're called to be. The people of Israel are called to be a light and a blessing to the world. And if they're all running away or they're all mocking us, we're not fulfilling what it says in the words of the prophet Moshe. Aloha shalom. We're not fulfilling the words of the prophet Moshe that when we walk in accordance with the covenant, that the nations will say, what a great nation this is, whose God is Hashem, whose God is among them, right? So let's avoid irrationality and walk in Torah, walk in the paths of the sages of Israel with reason. Because if you separate that from it, reasonability, the virtues of kindness and compassion, forgiveness, and intellectual honesty, you're not walking in the paths of Torah. If it's not increasing the love of God and the love of fellow men, you're not increasing Torah. And you are walking in a perversion and a delusion of Torah. It's a desecration of God's name. So let's be a light. We will know according to the fruit, right? We will know them according to the fruit. Ain't that right?
That sounds familiar, yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, it is.
Uriah, would you like to close us with words of gratitude to God and prayer for a fruitful week? Hashem, speaking of fruit. Impromptu. You can defer to the woman, and we'll make the feminists happy.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, it's partially because I'm not talking yet.
All right.
I'm going to pass for this week too.
Okay. O Master of all existence, who sees the heart of man and of every woman, child, of your people and of every nation. Remind us that you see us as we are and not as we pose to be. Guide us to walk in your ways in humility before you and before others, to delight in the joy of knowing your way and of knowing your Torah, and to find joy in it and in its proper execution. Grant us a week of meaning and of love and of friendship and brotherhood and sisterhood. Grant us laughter in times of darkness, and grant us understanding and perspective even in the heights of temporary joy, that ultimately it is all for your name, and your name is good, for your he who is good and does good. For the sake of your name we pray. When Omar and everybody said Amen.
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 Shavua tov, barachot. Shalom.
Shavua tov.